you should never stop doing it. When will they start seeing a return? Pretty immediately. Now, that return will snowball, will gain traction, and it will get better and better the longer you do it. If you're doing it properly and consistently, it continues to get better. If you can manage all of it, do as much as you can. There's no such thing as bad, brand. Well, there is bad branding, but it could take some time to kind of learn how to manage. And if you're not staffed for it properly, you're not going to take advantage of everything that advertising. Sometimes you're a victim of your own success. It kind of stinks, but it happens. The more advertising vehicles that you're taking advantage of, the better.
Thank you so much everyone for joining us for another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. We have Philip Tringali out of Echo Advertising in Houston, Texas. So Philip, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. So Philip, why don't you, so for those that don't know, Echo Advertising, it's a mailer company that supports auto repair shops across the nation. And so Philip, in terms of, I guess, your background in doing this and auto repair industry in particular, what got you started into doing what you do?
Well, my background is automotive, actually. I started out, in independent auto repair shops as a service advisor, then a general manager, a regional manager, a COO of auto repair shops. So, when the first company I was involved with in auto repair went to transaction and sold, a lot of the people that I was in that business with went on and opened their own shops.
Okay.
I don't know. I wanted out of the day-to-day grind of running an auto repair shop. And we used to buy a lot of direct mail postcard advertising with that company. So I kind of saw what it was and how it worked. And I thought, that's a business I think that I would be good at. Mm-hmm. And so 21 years ago, I started this company. And, it's funny because I had a built-in clientele at the very beginning because I had all these people that I worked with that branched out and opened their own shops. So we had these relationships already built with those people. So it was kind of easy to get started and the client base, which was nice. And then, over the course of 21 years, we've grown quite a bit. It's been great. I love it.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. And so today we're going to dive in a little bit in terms of mailers, the do's and don'ts, the offers, things like that. So in terms of, there's a bunch of misnomers that go around in regards to marketing, but in particular in mailers, in terms of some people are really passionate and like, yes, it absolutely works. This is the only thing that you need to do. Other people are like, don't even bother. You're wasting all your money if you do it. But obviously there's a lot of intricacies that go into that. And so in your opinion, I guess we'll start off with, in terms of the mailers that you've seen work the best, like what usually coincides with it being the best?
Well, when you speak about the best, it's funny. The better the shop operator, the better the results. Isn't it? It's weird how that kind of works, but it's unfortunately it's true. Uh-huh. Because what happens with postcards a lot of times is 85% of the customers will call before they just show up. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when they get the postcard, some of them will get the card out of their mailbox and they just go in and try to get an oil change or their brakes checked or, whatever the case may be. But most of them will call before they just show up. And really, it's not to determine whether or not they want to do business with that company because they've already determined they do. Mm-hmm. It's really just to see if they can be accommodated. Is it convenient now for me to bring my car? And, is this something that you can handle for me? Because when they call, they're ready. Yeah. And the person that answers the phone makes all the difference in the world, and how they approach that customer, and how inviting they sound, how professional they sound, and how much they actually want the business. You'd be surprised because we have call tracking numbers on these postcards, and it records all the calls, and a lot of the time you hear service advisors turning business away. And customers spend a lot of money, to attract, repair work. And then to, have a service advisor answer the phone and the customer says, hey, can you change my oil? Well, I can't get to it till next Thursday. Well, that customer's not coming. They're going somewhere else. And then, people say, well, postcards don't work. Well, it may have worked.
Yeah, no.
So, but, as far as campaigns go, as far as success rate, look, I'll give you a few hints. There's an old adage, though. It says, there's two rules for success. Number one is never reveal everything you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got to be careful. You can't give away all the industry secrets, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But really, it's a clean looking card, right? Mm-hmm. Not too busy with information. Too much is no good. Less is more with this stuff. So I always encourage our customers, listen, let's do a big, bold headline. We want to make the shop look nice and inviting, and big, bold offers. Because really and truthfully, you have about 3 seconds to gain a customer's attention when they pull that card out of the mailbox. They're not interested in reading a bunch of nonsense. They're not going to waste their time with it. So you have to have a headline that grabs them, maybe an image or two that's bold that grabs them. And then the offers have to be big and bold. So that will grab them. People put maps on these cards still today. And I'll do it for people because, they want a map of where their shop is. Mm-hmm. In today's day and age, I find it a waste of space and very unnecessary. Yep. Logos, ASE logos, ASA logos, BG logos, like people like to clutter up their card with industry logos. And I tell them it's a waste of space as well, because you're in the industry, you do it every day. You know what that logo means. Your customer doesn't, nor do they care.
Yeah.
So I try to encourage people to minimize the amount of information they put on their card. Have their brand, their logo stick out. It's branding for them, not ASE or ASA or whomever. And just try to grab their attention as best you can.
Yeah, I 100% agree in terms of less is more. I mean, not only with mailers, but every form of marketing that you can possibly do. Less is always more. So when things are too noisy, people get distracted and they're like, well, I don't even know what this is. So they throw it away. And so that's why we don't want them to go down that path. And then you feel like, hey, I wasted all this money on mailers, but there's a lot that goes into it before actually then sending it out. And so you mentioned a few things in terms of headlines, offers, pictures. And so now I know, obviously, we don't want to share all the secrets and the secret sauce of things that you apply and do. But in generalized terms, like let's start with maybe the headlines. What have you seen be like a good idea of a catchy headline that you've seen work well?
Well, I mean, one of the most popular ones is, we fix everything, obviously. Auto service you can trust. Basically, and look, here's the thing. What we try to do that might be a little bit different than some other people that do this is we try to cater the message to the individual shop as best we can. There's a whole lot of generic headlines that, everybody uses. But, we try to find, as best we can, a customer's USP, right? You're familiar with a USP, yep, obviously. For those that, aren't familiar, their unique selling proposition, right? Because we want to accentuate what they are good at their particular shop. I have customers that are open 7 days a week, which is unheard of in this business, but that's something that is a huge USP. We use that for their headline on a lot of stuff, here for you 7 days a week. And it's not just open 7 days a week, it's here for you 7 days a week, trying to accentuate the fact that they're here to serve you. Like I said, there's a lot of generic headlines that people use, but we try our best to maybe cater it particularly to that specific shop as best we can.
Yeah, I love that. And so, and the USPs, I think a lot of people don't even realize what their own USPs are. And so I think it's really important for shop owners to just take the time and sit down and think about like what drives our ship in terms of our shop. And like, let's write down those things that really we feel make a difference of why someone would, yes, absolutely no brainer, choose us versus the competitors that are out there, and then making sure you headline that in a nice, neat form.
Well, and it goes the other way too, Kelsey, in that you want to steer away from things that put you at a disadvantage, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a shop that's, a Monday through Thursday shop, which there are some people out there going Monday through Thursday now. Yep. And I've seen people that open 8 a.m. and close at 4:30 in the afternoon, right? Mm-hmm. Which is not a competitive advantage. Now, like, it's their choice, and they operate their business the way they want to operate it, and it works for them, and they're successful in that. But that is not a competitive advantage when you're up against somebody that's open Monday through Saturday from 7 till 7, right? The one thing that we don't want to accentuate with their postcards is, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4:30, big and bold, because that's a competitive disadvantage for them. So, it works both ways. You have to accentuate the positives and steer clear of the negatives as best you can. And trust me, everybody has their negatives.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think another thing to also differentiate yourself is maybe right now, making sure that you can get people in as soon as possible. Like you already mentioned, like the service advisor is saying, hey, we can't get you in until next week. Like, no, like figure out how you can get people in that same day and get that done for them. And that way you can layer that into your postcard. And that's something that not everyone has figured out in their operations, to figure out, okay, yes, I'm slammed, but how do I keep it so like this investment that I'm making in marketing can still pay me back in 10-fold or in 20-fold or whatever it may be. So I think that's an important thing to think about.
Very, very critical. It's very critical. The shop owners, they spend a lot of money on this advertising, whether it's, Google AdWords or postcards or what have you. There's a cost of acquisition involved. And, every customer phone call costs a certain amount of money. When you break it down and do the analytics, cost of acquisition might be $90 to make that phone ring one time, right? Yep. Depending on the shop and, the volume and all that sort of thing. So when you break it down and put it in those terms and you say, well, that phone ringing right now is costing me $90. When I pick it up, what am I going to do? Am I going to, by any means necessary, get this customer to bring that car in, or am I just going to dismiss it and, hopefully they come in next week when I'm more available to them, I feel like if more service advisors knew that information, how much it actually costs per time that phone rings, that maybe they might take a different approach. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're building that transparency with the entire team, and just letting them know, hey, this is what we're investing in. This is where calls should be coming from. So expect it, and then know that this is the protocol that we should be doing when such phone calls come in. So yeah, that's a great and valid point.
And I have a kind of a little makeshift formula that I give people on how these postcards should work. When you're looking at your call log on your call tracking dashboard, okay, and you see, I don't know, let's just make it simple numbers, right? Let's say you had 50 phone calls this week off of postcards. I like to look at it and say, all right, 50 people called and all 50 have the intention on getting their car serviced in some way or another, because they're not window shopping here, man. It's no fun for them to pick up the phone and call an auto shop, right? They're doing it for a real reason. They got the postcard, they're calling. Their intention is to have a service performed. So being like very fair with the numbers, you should be getting at least 80% of your phone calls to actually come in and visit the shop when they call for service. Mm-hmm. Now, like if you're really killing it, you should be getting, 90, 95%. But, just really at the very worst, you should be getting 80% of these customers that call actually show up. So, what's 80% of 50, Kelsey?
40.
Right. Okay. So if I got the phone to ring 50 times and I get 40 people to show up, okay, and what's my ticket average at my particular shop? Well, I don't know. They range. I mean, I see shops, some shops have $1,000 ticket averages. Some shops have $500 ticket averages. Let's say you got a $500 ticket average at your shop and you get 40 people to show up. What's that, 20 grand in sales? Mm-hmm. Okay. 20 grand in sales in 1 week off of, what most people might spend on postcards in a week ranges anywhere from $800 to $1,600 a week in spend on postcards. The normal spend by average customer. Mm-hmm. Well, if I told you can spend $1,700 and generate $20,000 in sales, would you sign up for it? Well, yeah. You would. And the top tier shops that are absolutely killing it, and there are a ton of them out there. They'll tell you that's pretty much how this deal works. Mm-hmm. But it all goes back to, look, I'm going to make your phone ring. I'll tell you, I'm going to make your phone ring. Are you able to close?
Yeah.
Right. And that's really what it boils down to. So I don't know.
No, absolutely. I think it is really important to have that whole process flow and not just expect that, just because I'm sitting on mailer, it's just magically going to fix everything that's going on in the shop, and all the cars will start coming in. Obviously, there's a lot more to the process that takes place.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's forgotten.
And it's funny because, I'll talk to some shop owners and they'll say, well, yeah, but not every one of those cars that comes in with a postcard is $500. And I go, well, well, what's your ticket average? Well, $500. I go, well, it is. Then it is. Yeah. Average is average, no matter what. You put them all in a bowl, you stir them up, you divide them by, and then boom, you got an average. So you can't say not every card that comes in is $500. Well, of course it isn't. But, if your ticket average is $500, then average is average, buddy. That's what it works out to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? Definitely. And so now, we talked about headline, and then now I'm going to talk about the images that are on there. So I know there's always different takes on like, does it need to be a professional photographer that comes to my shop? Can it just have to be an organic photo of like people at the shop, or can I just throw stock photos on there? Like what is your take in terms of like the best images that should be layered on a postcard?
So here's how I feel, and I'm very opinionated in this, and basically just because I've got 21 years of measuring this stuff, and I am very much against stock photos. I feel like you get a much, much better return from reality, and I feel like if your customer that pulls this card out of the mailbox gets to see who they're going to deal with when they show up at the shop, it also helps your returns as well. Now, so if you could make yourself presentable and, smile real big for the camera and, we can get a nice image of you on your postcard and put you on there as the owner, the general manager, or the service advisor, or what have you, it definitely helps because, let's face it, it's auto repair and the general public goes in automatically not trusting auto shops for whatever reason. They've been predisposed to not trust auto repair shops. So any barrier breaking type of ideas you can come up with as far as breaking down that trust barrier really helps. So, I encourage smiling faces of the employees. We definitely want pictures of your actual shop. Like all of that stuff is very, very important. And theme as well. I'll tell you, I know themes are really, really big. And it's like people want to send Christmas cards at Christmas and Thanksgiving at Thanksgiving, and let's give it a Valentine's type of theme, around that time of year in February and what have you. And I got to tell you, like, I'm not a big believer in it for a few different reasons, because I feel like, your message should be, we fix cars better than anybody else in the area. We're more trustworthy, we'll get it back to you faster, cheaper, better, whatever that message is. But you should be branding your own personal brand rather than, piggybacking off of particular themes. I think the theme should be, we're the best at what we do at fixing cars, and we're going to make you happier than anybody else is going to make you when it comes to fixing your car. And the other thing about the themes that I don't like, is especially something like Valentine's Day or Christmas, is it puts a reminder to that potential customer that, oh, Valentine's Day, I got to buy my wife a nice piece of jewelry. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put off this car repair because, I need to spend this money on this Valentine's Day gift. Mm-hmm. So she decides to stay with me. Or, Christmas is coming. I got to buy toys for the kids and, gifts for the family. And, let me put this auto repair off until January. Some of the themes I feel like work against you because it's a big reminder to customers that they should be spending their money elsewhere.
That's a very interesting take. I've never heard it layered in that way. I mean, but I can definitely see how that direct correlation where, yeah, it's like I have other expenses right now, and you're reminding me of said other expenses. So thank you for the reminder, but I'm not going to spend money your way. So
right. Yeah. So I mean, look, I may be overthinking it, but it's something that I've just felt strongly about for a long time, and I just also feel like your brand is most important, and listen, your customer doesn't care that it's Valentine's Day. They care that their brakes are making a hellacious noise and they want to know who's going to fix it best. So I think that's kind of where we need to go with these campaigns. And, we've had a lot of success with it. So, I speak from a place of, analytics, where we've gauged it and we've seen, the response rates. And this has seemed to be the most successful practice for us. We get the results this way. So,
yeah, no, definitely. Awesome. Well, then the biggest and most hairy thing in the room in regards to the postcard at the end of the day is going to be the offer. And then what it is on there that is going to entice that person to come in. Granted, yes, they read the headlines, like, oh, that sounds really good. They look at the pictures. Oh, that looks really good. They look at a really friendly place. And I'm like, why though should I go there? What are they offering me? So in terms of those offers, I know there's very different takes on what these offers can or should be. But what, in your opinion, have you seen be some of the most successful offers that get sent out?
Look, you have to have an oil change offer on your card. It's an absolute must. It is the service that a customer needs most often. Plus, it's probably the cheapest thing they're going to get to do at an auto repair shop. There's not many services that are cheaper than the oil change. So it's a good starting point, especially when you're trying to acquire a new customer. Because new customers, they always want to try out a new shop for something that isn't going to cost them a ton of money, or they feel like is a very intense, involved type of repair. They want to test people on something cheap and easy and fast. So when you're after new customer acquisition, the oil change is very important. When you're talking about customer retention, the oil change is very important because, that's what they need most often. Now, what does that oil change offer look like? I'm a believer there are oil change offers out there that are actually too cheap, which can be a detriment. It could be a turnoff. I know for myself personally, if I get an ad for a very cheap oil change, it kind of scares me a little bit because then I worry about the quality of service that my car is getting. Am I getting a substandard oil? Am I getting a substandard filter? Who is the guy changing my oil? Are they qualified to change it? How are they able to do it this cheap? You can scare people off with too cheap. So you have to kind of analyze your area of the country for one, because it's different everywhere. And then, the other thing is a lot of people aren't even putting prices on oil change offers anymore. They're just doing dollars off, $15 off, synthetic blend, or, $20 and $25 off a full synthetic. Because let's face it, nowadays there isn't really this one oil change price for every kind of car. They're so different. Yeah. They take so many different, this car takes 7 quarts of oil. This car takes 6 quarts of oil. This car has this crazy oil filter. This one doesn't. The labor's more intensive on this car than this car. So, it's gotten to the point where it's not easy to do every oil change on every car for the same amount of money. So a lot of shop owners have just gone to, hey, $15 off synthetic blend, $20 off full synthetic, or what have you. And it works well.
Have you seen one work better than the other in terms of like just saying dollar off or just saying a fixed price for the service?
Not really, because, and the reason I say that is it's really about your area of the country, right? And the competition around you, where we have found that with the oil change, when we put a price on the oil change, if we're typically within about $5 of all the competitors within, a 5 to 7 mile radius, $5 lower or $5 higher, we're good. But then there's areas where the demographics are much more affluent, where I think, we go with the dollars off because the customer base isn't as price motivated as much as, I see they're going to give me a little bit of an incentive to come in and, they're going to take really good care of me. And it's, so it's, I can't say one works better than the other because we try to cater which way we go to, the actual area that we're mailing to, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And then I know we're talking about dollars off here for an oil change, but then also I see a lot of dollars off for overall service when they hit certain price tiers. So do you see that work very effectively as well? Or would you say, no, I think you should pick a specific service and do a dollar off sort of special on it?
Well, I'm partial to this one because I created that tiered offer 21 years ago. I think I was the pioneer of that.
There you go.
I'm pretty certain I was actually. And, the way that it works, it's kind of misleading, but purposely misleading. I don't want this to sound dirty or anything. I'm not doing anything wrong, but it's all about the way the brain processes the offer. Okay. So if you do $25 off, and here's the common one, right? The common one is 25, 50, 75. And there's variations of that. Some people do 30, 60, 90, you know, and some goofy numbers. Like some people have 17, 27, and 37 off and all that stuff. But the common one's 25, 50, 75, right? And it's typically $25 off 100, 50 off of, you know, like 499, and, you know, 75 off of 699 or what have you, right? And if you look and you go, all right, 25 off of 100, oh, holy cow, you know, it's 25% off, right? That's the way the human brain calculates that. But the beauty of this is the consumer sees I'm getting 25% off, but in reality, they're not at all, because it's, you know, 25 off 100 or more, you know, all the way up until they get to 499. So if they are spending 350 and they're getting 25 off, you know, they're not getting 25%, but the way the brain views that offer, it views it like a 25% off offer. And that's the beauty of those tiered offers, is it always gives the consumer the feeling that they're actually getting more than they are.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely. I think that's, again, as marketers, I mean, we have to come up with certain tactics and things that help bring the cars in. And so obviously there's a psychology aspect that we have to address and go after certain people for. And one of the ways is that tier level. So I'm glad that you explained it very well for us of why that is such an effective way to be able to list. I mean, so sometimes though I see maybe that there's too many offers on a mailer. Is there such a thing in your opinion, or is it okay to have an oil change offer as well as a tiered ladder offer as well as another offer all within one postcard?
Yeah, I mean, I like, as best I can, I like to limit it to 4 offers. Okay. Now I have customers that run more than that. I have customers that run less than that. But I think 3 to 4 is really the sweet spot. Because it's like everything else that we talked about, less is more. If you give them too many options, then it could actually have the wrong effect. And that's the other beauty of that tiered offer that we're talking about, is it covers everything, right? So I don't really need to worry about what kind of service it is, because it's any service. So I'm covering all my bases, you know, with just that tiered offer. So, you know, I think that, I mean, if you want to talk about common offers, you know, the oil change offer, the tiered offer, the 2 biggies. I always tell my customers, if you do a state inspection in your state and you're a state inspection facility, you should be doing a state inspection offer. It's low hanging fruit. Yeah. It just is. The state is actually telling you that you have permission to look at anything and everything that could be wrong with this customer's car. Like, as a shop owner, like, what more could you want? The state is demanding that I check all this stuff. That's fantastic. Yeah. And then, you know, what I like to do for the 4th offer is some sort of a seasonal offer. So, you know, it's about 115 degrees here today in Houston, Texas. So, you know, we run AC offers, which is a very popular offer across the country in the summertime. You know, some of the other popular offers is, you know, $30 off a computerized alignment or a free warning light scan. But I can tell you, I already know going in what my most popular offers are going to be as far as customer redemptions go before we even put it on the card. I know the oil change is always going to be number 1. I know that the tiered offer is always going to be number 2, always. And then the others, you know, they do okay, but they never do as well as the oil change and the tiered offers. Those are the stars of the show. They are. You
Yep.
know, and I tell people, a lot of the other offers that we put on there, they're not even so much for a customer to redeem the offer as much as it is advertising that this is a service I perform.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
That's very, very true.
Yeah.
So another question that people have is like, okay, well, how long do I have to do this for? Like, can I just send it up for a couple of weeks and then I'm going to expect the calls here in a little bit? Or like, what is that reoccurrence and that length of time that should take place to then see a proper return?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I'll say this, and this is going to sound very salesman, and like I'm trying to sell postcards, and I can guarantee you that's not the reason I'm saying this. You should never stop doing them. Okay. So there's no, all right. I've done them for 6 months and that's good enough. And I'll never have to do it again because I've built up this client base. That's just not the way advertising works in any vehicle advertising. When will they start seeing a return? Pretty immediately. Okay. Within the first couple of weeks, they're going to see a return. Now, that return will snowball and it will gain traction and it will get better and better and better the longer you do it. If you're doing it properly and consistently, it continues to get better. Now, there is a point of, diminishing returns, right? Where it's going to even off and, you figure out what your peak is. But I would say you're not going to reach your peak probably for 6 to 8 months. Mm-hmm. I have a customer that I deal with on the East Coast where, it probably took 12, 14 months before we got to peak performance. For me, that's a long time. I would prefer it to happen much faster, as would the shop owners, of course. But sometimes the situation dictates the performance of the postcard. And what I mean by that is their staffing. Are they equipped to handle the new customers? Because, especially like a shop that's never done postcards before. And they're adding this to the repertoire and it's something new to them. And then all of a sudden, man, they're blasting out 4,000 cards a week in their area. It could take some time to kind of learn how to manage the volume. And if you're not staffed for it properly, then you're not going to take advantage of everything that advertising could have been for you. And we run into that sometimes. I run into people slowing down their advertising because they're overwhelmed. Which sometimes you're a victim of your own success, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of stinks, but it happens. So, I don't know. But long story short, you should see some sort of results pretty immediately, really. This is not that much of a slow burn kind of advertising.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think what you mentioned there, it's that consistency that has to take place, and regardless of what form of marketing you are doing, you just have to be consistent, and then you have to evaluate what's working, what's not, how to adjust. Obviously, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and it's not working, there needs to be some sort of adjustment. But just don't magically point the blame at one place and think, yep, that it's all because of that. You need to really dig in, evaluate what is taking place, because mailers have worked for a really long time for people. Obviously, we're a digital marketing company, so that's what with the online side of things, I become a little bit biased when it's almost like we're competing after the same thing. But in the reality, though, it's like what we do complement each other so well. And I really think shops need to be doing both layers in terms of
I agree. I agree 100%. I think the more advertising vehicles that you're taking advantage of, the better. You should try to be everywhere. You should try to be everywhere. You should try to be in mailboxes. You should try to be on the internet. You should try to be, on social media. You should try to be on billboards. You should try to be on the radio. You should try to be on TV. If you can manage all of it, do as much as you can. There's no such thing as bad, brand. Well, there is bad branding, but just brand awareness. There's you can't have too much brand awareness. There's a guy here in Houston, Texas, which I guess he's become famous nationally. His name is Mattress Mac. Have you ever heard of this guy?
Yep.
He does
big bets every once in a while.
Yeah, he does. But a lot of people watching this podcast that don't live in Houston, Texas, probably know who this guy is. And it's because he has made his brand big everywhere. Like he gets it. And the more you can be like that guy, the better. He advertises everything everywhere, and everybody knows who he is. And he has one location in Houston, Texas, and people in Utah and Philadelphia and Memphis, Tennessee know who this guy is. It's bizarre. Yeah. I'm with you. We're not competing for the same customers. We're working together to attract the same customers. Yeah. The one thing I do tell people, though, I'll be honest with you, after hearing this, you might want to edit this out. I don't know.
No, not at all.
I don't know if this is bad for your business, but I tell my customers this. I say, listen, here's how direct mail should work for you. You want to own your market share, right? You want to own the immediate area around your business. If they live within a 3-mile radius of your shop and they're going somewhere else, you're doing something wrong. Okay. Those are your customers. You should stake claim to those people. And the way that direct mail works really well is this. If I am in customer mailboxes all the time, and we set people up on weekly programs, right? So we'll pick viable targets, come up with a total amount of addresses that they should be targeting in their area, and then we'll break that total up into zones. And it might be a 4-week cycle, zone 1 through zone 4, and then start back at the beginning again. So a potential customer would get their advertising once a month, right? So let's say that I have a customer that lives in zone 1 and they get this shop's advertising once a month, every month. Here's what you're doing. You're preventing that customer from going to Google and saying, brake job in my area, or oil change in my area, reputable auto repair in my area. What the postcard does after that customer continues to get that postcard and they see the branding and they see the messaging and they see the offers and, they get it in their mailbox every month, it takes that urge away when, they're driving their car and it starts overheating. Oh my God, where am I going to take this car? It takes the Google factor out, because let's face it, you're a digital advertiser. You know how this works. Everybody's fighting for placement on Google. Who's going to come up first, and hey, how can I be seen on that first page, and all this SEO work that goes into that, and getting that awareness. Well, if I can, as a shop owner, prevent a customer in my immediate area from Googling auto repair in my area, because when I Google auto repair in my area, it's going to give me, 5 right away on the first page. And then, then it's a crapshoot. It's like, are they going to pick me? It's one out of these 5. I'm one of them. Hopefully they pick me. If I'm continuing to pound them with postcard advertising and I'm in their social media, and I'm paying to be on their feed in that area, so they're constantly seeing me when they're on their Facebook feed. If I'm doing these things, then this particular customer isn't going to Google and have 5 selections. I'm their only choice because I'm constantly in their face. And that's where I think we get the biggest benefit of the postcards, you know?
I think that's a very viable reason. In no way does it detract from, I mean, obviously there's a share of people that we want that brand awareness to be so strong. Or there isn't a real need for them to research a general key term that then you have to fight for that win again. But it doesn't prevent from there's still tons and tons of searches that definitely take place. So that's where absolutely both mechanisms are needed so that we create this ultimate brand awareness across the board. So, Philip, thank you so much. This has been very, very knowledgeable in terms of how to best leverage mailers, best practices, things across the board. For those people that maybe want to learn more about exactly your process, what that looks like, reach out to you personally. Maybe if they have questions on their own mailers, they want another pair of eyes from another professional. What would be the best way to reach out to you?
Well, there's a number of ways. I'll give you my office number, which is 281-370-4114. You can email info@echo-advertising.com, or you could go to my website, which admittedly, I'm not a fan of my website. It's under reconstruction right now. It is, it needs help. I may have to employ you to fix my website.
Happy to lay that a
It's embarrassingly bad, but it's echo-advertising.com. And I mean, those are the easiest ways to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to speak with anybody that has any questions or needs help with their direct mail advertising.
Perfect. All right, well, Philip, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you all for listening and watching. If you're not subscribed or have liked the video, please go ahead and do so below. I'm Kelsey Outram with Lift Auto Repair Marketing. We'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks.